Hey, what's new and exciting? It's Kevin O'Shaughnessy here to help you get better at the guitar. Sometimes we'll be talking about digging into the mechanics of a particular technique. Other times we might talk about reading music or learning some basic theory. You know, things other guitar teachers tell you you don't need. Well, you know what? You may need them in order to get over that line and become the guitar player you want to be, and that's why I'm here. So today we're going to be looking at two titans of rock guitar, Jimi Hendrix and Eddie Van Halen, and we're going to see who's got the better ergonomic approach. If you've been following my channel for a while, you know that ergonomics is a big subject in my lesson videos. I mean, let's face it, if you can't sit with the guitar without pain in your back or your neck, or you can't play those complicated licks without pain in your wrist, chances are your ergonomics are a little off and you're never going to be the guitar player you want to be without addressing them. And before you start climbing up my ass in the comments, let me be clear about something. I am not making an evaluation of the music these guys created or the legacy they left behind. Both of them, in their own way, have changed rock guitar forever and for always. Nothing can take that away from them. We're just going to be observing how they held the guitar while they performed and whether or not they are good examples of good ergonomics. You can learn all their songs, you can study all their licks, but that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about who, in my opinion, is the better example to observe to improve your ergonomics so that playing the guitar is easier for you. So before we get going, I want to let you know that I have a free PDF guide on how to sit with the guitar. You'll find the link in the description below. If you struggle with back pain or neck pain or wrist pain, particularly in your fretting hand, this will absolutely change the way you play. And if you haven't come across anything like this before, don't feel bad. I've seen a lot of method books get this wrong, and even my own guitar teachers never really taught me how to sit with the guitar correctly. I'm not sure why this is so overlooked, but I promise you, download the PDF and it'll change the way you play. So let's get into it. First, let's check out Jimi Hendrix. This performance of Purple Haze was from the Atlanta Pop Festival in 1970, and there's some pretty good camera work in here that lets us see exactly what he's doing. So let's check it out. Now, right away, I see three cardinal sins in ergonomics. Now, of course, I'm a guitar player, not a doctor, but I've experienced some of these problems before. I've worked with physical therapists and I've done a fair amount of research on this, so I do know what I'm talking about. First of all, he's got the guitar pretty much right in front of him. Now, if you followed my previous videos, you know that one of the things that I advocate is for turning the guitar more onto your hip so that you can push the headstock away from your body and have the guitar at about a 45-degree angle from your torso, right? Hendrix is not doing that here. He's got the guitar almost parallel to his hips. That guitar orientation is responsible for one of the other sins in this case, and that's the way his shoulders are twisted. It's not an extreme amount, but notice that his left shoulder is coming forward, which is pushing his right shoulder back. Now, if you were to just sit in a chair and twist your shoulders in this fashion, you'll feel that twist in your upper back, which later on could cause some problems. And in actuality, he's also compounding this by the forward nature of his head. He tends to do that a lot. His head is sticking out forward when it should really be more upright. The last sin that Jimmy's committing is his fret hand wrist, which is bent back like this. Now, I've explained in previous videos that your fingers don't have muscles in them, okay? The muscles that control your fingers are in your forearm. They're connected to your fingers by tendons that run through your wrist. If your wrist is bent backwards like that, where we say that it's extended, you're creating a corner in your wrist that those tendons begin to rub against. The more they rub against the corner, the more they become inflamed, and that's what leads to things like carpal tunnel. So here's a much better angle where you can see that extended wrist. Now, it may not be causing him trouble now, but over time that could develop some real issues. The other thing that I find a little bit of fault in is the thumb over the neck. People argue about this all the time. I'm not a huge fan of it, though if you've seen any of the videos of me performing, I do use this orientation from time to time, particularly when I'm bending. The thing is, though, the thumb does have a muscle right here, and that's what creates our opposable thumb. If you are putting your thumb over the top of the neck, you're losing the leverage that that muscle provides. Couple that with an extended wrist, and you are now using muscles that don't need to be used and creating a situation for a great deal of pain and possibly some more serious issues down the line. If you can keep your fingers on the fretboard and your thumb pressed against the back of the neck, a little bit of flexion with that thumb muscle is all you need to make sure that you can press the strings against the frets and get a good sound. For a better ergonomic example, let's take a look at Eddie Van Halen. This is the song 5150 performed on the home video Live Without a Net in 1986. First, notice the orientation of the guitar. It's located more on his right hip, which allows him to push the headstock forward a little bit more and get that 45-degree angle that we were talking about earlier. This is important because, as I've illustrated in other videos, this means that all you need to do to reach the neck with your fret hand is to bend at the elbow, and we can see that that's exactly what he's doing here. We can also see that Eddie's got a straight wrist, what we call a neutral wrist, from his elbow to his knuckles. That eliminates the friction of the tendons going through the carpal tunnel. There's no corner for them to negotiate. He's still got his thumb over the top of the neck, which isn't great, but it's far less damaging when you have a neutral wrist. Now, here's something to pay attention to as well, okay? As he's playing this riff, notice he's got a very, very flexed wrist to get some of those notes. Now, as a general rule, that's not the kind of orientation you want for your wrist. However, every once in a while, if you have to do it, it's not a big deal. The secret is to return to that neutral wrist after you've played that phrase, which is exactly what Eddie does here. The other things that I want to point out is that even though he has a pretty extreme flexion in his wrist right now, the guitar is still on the same angle. On top of that, his shoulders are square with his hips. Even though he's got this big lean back and he's got his rock star pose going on, he's still keeping his shoulders square with his hips. He's not twisting his spine the way Jimmy was. So here we've got another example of Eddie using that neutral wrist and keeping that guitar on an angle. This is his default orientation, and this is a really good one. Yes, he still keeps throwing the thumb over the top of the neck, which, like I said, I'm not a big fan of, but is less damaging with a neutral wrist, with the guitar on the proper angle, and his shoulders square with his hips. That's his default orientation, and it's a pretty good one. So to wrap this up, in my observation, Jimi Hendrix, while being a great game-changing guitar player, really demonstrates some very poor ergonomics. Now, you could argue that they worked for him, and I would submit that he was a great guitar player despite his technique, not because of it. Now, if you want to learn Jimi Hendrix music, do it. And my recommendation, however, don't look at him as a model of good ergonomics. The way he's got his shoulders twisted, the way he's got his wrist extended, these are things that can cause you problems down the line, and you don't want to have to deal with that. In my estimation, though not perfect, Eddie Van Halen is a better model for good ergonomics. Again, he still keeps throwing that thumb over the top of the neck, but by and large, he's got the neutral wrist. The guitar is oriented on his hip so that he can get that nice 45-degree angle that we were talking about, and he keeps his shoulders square with his hips a majority of the time. So you can look at that and follow that as a model and probably still be able to play Jimi Hendrix stuff. Again, I'm a guitar player, not a doctor, but I've worked with doctors on this subject. I have my own experiences with this, so I do know something of what I'm talking about here. And if you can keep your shoulders square with your hips and you can keep that guitar on a 45-degree angle and keep your wrist neutral a majority of the time, you'll find playing the guitar to be so much easier. It won't hurt. And that's what you're looking for anyway, right? You want to have fun playing the guitar. You want to be able to play your favorite songs. This is a critical step in getting you to that point. So I hope that helps. Question of the day, which of these issues do you struggle with the most? the angle of the guitar across your body, the twisted shoulders, or the overly extended or flexed wrist. And tell me what you thought of the comparison between Jimmy's ergonomics and Eddie's ergonomics. So if you like what I'm doing and you want to support the channel, liking and subscribing are always helpful. Just remember to turn on your notifications so you know when I release a new video. If you'd like to take it a step further, you can pick up a copy of my album Persistence of Vision, which is a hard rock record featuring Joe Satriani-style instrumentals, story-driven songs, and a lot of great riffs. It's everything that I love about rock and roll. You'll find the link in the description below. And before you go, remember to pick up your PDF on how to sit with the guitar. I promise it will change the way you play. In the meantime, go practice, and I'll see you in the next video.